You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
I don't know if Massimo will join us, but if he does, we'll introduce him when he gets here. So why don't we call this special meeting of the Branford Planning and Zoning Commission to order. It is Thursday, September 10th, 2020. And this is our special meeting, and I will ask Caitlin to run over the rules for this virtual Zoom meeting.
Okay, so this meeting is being recorded and will be available in the next 24 hours. If you're joining us by computer, you can participate in one of two ways. The first and the preferable way would be to raise your hand, and you can do that by hovering your cursor over the bottom of the screen. You'll see a list for participants, and if you find yourself, you should see a prompt to raise your hand, and either myself or Harry will unmute you so you can participate in the public hearing portion of the meeting. Alternatively, you can enter your comments into the chat. Again, please write your name down and reserve it for the public hearing portion, and it will be printed out. So please say which application you're speaking to. If you're calling in by phone, you can press *9 and we'll use the raise hand feature. And again, we can unmute you during a public hearing portion of one of the applications. Also, if everyone can just state their name before they speak, each time they speak, that would be incredibly helpful.
Chuck Anders, Chair. Thank you, Caitlin. I'll introduce members of the commission and staff. Our commission members are John Lust, and when I say your name, please just acknowledge your presence. John, are you here?
John Lust, present.
Joe Chadwick. Joe, are you here?
Joe Chadwick is present.
Joe Viuso. Joe, are you here?
Joe Viuso here.
Fred Russo. Fred, are you here? Fred? Did we lose Fred? I see his name.
Indicated it was unmuted, so maybe there's some glitch.
I think he turned off. I think he muted himself on his phone.
Oh, shows up as unmuted. But.
He's here.
Yeah.
Oh, he actually called in again. I have to unmute him.
Okay.
Okay. You want to give that another go? He should.
Yes. Fred Russo. Fred, are you here? No, Fred. I see his name here.
His name is 3 places.
Yeah, I think he's called in on 2 different phones.
Yeah. Third one says ask to unmute.
I only see his name 2 places.
Yeah. At 3, 2 phones and something else.
Well, we'll continue with the list and we'll come back to Fred. Marcy Pelusi. Marcy, are you here?
Marcy Pelusi here.
Thank you. And then we have our new alternate is Massimo Ligori, and I don't believe he's here. Is that correct? Massimo, are you here? Okay, we don't see him. And then I don't believe Paul is here this evening. Our staff is Harry Smith, town planner. Harry, you here?
I'm here.
Thank you. Chuck Anders, chair. Caitlin Piazza. Caitlin, you here?
I'm here.
And our clerk recording secretary, Michelle Martin. Michelle?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Now let's turn back. Fred, do we got Fred back yet? Okay.
Doesn't look like we have audio for Fred. I can give him a quick call if.
Why don't you give him a quick call?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, Fred's gonna call back in now, so we probably just need to give him a minute.
Okay. While we're waiting for Fred, we'll go through the normal rules of our public hearings. For our public hearings, the applicant will go first, make its presentation. After the applicant makes its presentation, we ask the staff to summarize staff report. We open it up for questions, comments from commission members. After that, we'll open it up to the public, and we'll go through the procedure that Caitlin reviewed in terms of asked to be recognized by the two methods that Caitlin had mentioned. You can make your comments. After the close of the public portion, we allow the applicant to respond to any of the public comments, and then we may or may not close the public hearing, depending on how it goes. For this evening, we have, I think, on our agenda a number of continued public hearings, so it's not unusual for public hearing to last more than one session. So with that, how are we doing? We heard from Fred yet, Caitlin?
He is joining right now. Fred, are you there?
I'm there.
All right.
Okay, excellent.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great, Fred. Glad you're with us. Okay, let's go to item number one of our public hearing. This is a continuation public hearing, Statewide Development LLC, 41 Brainerd Road, 4-lot subdivision. We opened the public hearing in July, had a couple meetings, and there was the proposal was a 4-lot subdivision. The commission had recommended that the developer make it a 3-lot subdivision. There were concerns about topography and tightness and maxing out the lots, and some concerns. And is the applicant ready to proceed? I see Nathan Young, someone shaking their head, so.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. My name is Jim Galligan from Nathan Young. We're located at 1355 Middletown Avenue. That's in Northford, Connecticut. Just to follow up, we did discuss the 3 or 4 lot options with the owner. The 4 lots are important to him. he purchased property from several people to be able to make make the 4 lots. All the lots are zoning compliant. All the lots meet all the regulations. And we've addressed any and all comments that have been raised by staff. He's respectfully asking for the commission to consider the 4 lot subdivision.
Okay, Chuck Anders, Chair, thank you. Do you have any other comments before we turn it over to staff and commission?
There were a couple of issues related to the sewer, one being one of them. We've resolved the sewer. There's a gravity sewer to lot number 1. And the applicant is requesting a waiver of the below ground utilities, because all the other homes on the street have above ground utilities, and they'd like to not cross the road because it's a dead end street and they won't have access during construction.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No, sir. Like I said, the 4 lot subdivision does meet all the regulations, and it is important to him, the applicant, to get the 4 lots.
Okay. And so there is no pump, Chuck Anders, Chair, there is no pump station needed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I'll turn over to staff. Harry or Caitlin, I understand there was some question about a wetlands issue.
I can jump in here. There was an application to the Inland Wetlands Watercourses Agency that was approved. It's a little unclear, is my understanding from the record, that the record reflects that both addresses of the properties involved were included in the application. There's some indication there were. On the permit itself, it only refers to one of the addresses in the actual permit document. So I believe the staff, the director over there, Jamie Frederick, is going to try to clarify that with the Inland Wetlands Watercourses Agency. But until that's clear, a little unclear that you've got unambiguous wetlands approval for the subdivision.
Chuck Anders, Chair. Thank you, Harry.
As a reminder, it's required by state law to have a wetlands approval before you can act.
What was the applicant, Chuck Anders, Chair, is the applicant aware of that issue with the wetlands?
Yes, I did talk to them today, and in fact, we're moving forward to the next step where I have two lots being application in front of them tonight, as soon as we're done with you folks tonight. You did mention it to me today. However, they did receive approval. The notice period has expired, so the official approval is in place, and they've granted us are granting us tonight the right to apply for the 2 plot plans for lots 3 and 4. And we intend to move ahead with those as soon as I'm done with this commission tonight. As you know, they're meeting at the same time.
Okay, Chuck Anders, Chair. Okay, so the fact that they need to approve something tonight means that we couldn't, if we wanted to, vote on it tonight because...
No, that's not correct. They have approved the subdivision. The subdivision's approved.
Okay,
in their approval, they asked to have a plot plan provided for lots 3 and for lots 4. And we are providing those tonight. But the subdivision itself has been approved.
Harry Smith, Town Planner. It's not a question of the individual lot approvals. It's a question of whether it's clear from the record and the permit issued by the Inland Wetlands Watercourses Agency that they referred and included all the properties that are included in the subdivision and they are wetlands approved. That's what's unclear at the moment. I believe they may be clarifying that tonight. My understanding, they're going to take that up. They may just simply need to put a statement on the record directing the staff there to reissue the wetlands permit with both addresses on it. Not sure about how they're going to proceed.
Okay. Chuck Anders, Chair. Okay. So, okay, I understand. So the question that the permit itself doesn't reflect all of the properties, but it may be essentially a typo or something, but that just needs to be clear. That's what
That's my understanding.
Okay, got it. Okay, Matt, are there questions from commission members and staff, or any staff, commission members have any questions or comments?
Caitlin Piazza, Assistant Town Planner. If it's helpful, I can kind of provide a brief overview of the last meeting and kind of
Good.
the items you were still considering.
That would be good, Caitlin.
So we left it off on the. Is anyone else hearing the echo?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna fix that first. Is that better?
Yes.
That was Joe Vauso. Okay, so we left it off that the applicant was going to pursue the 3-lot subdivision alternative instead. And the questions that were still up in the air at that time were the pump station, which, as Jim said, they've figured that out and it's going to be gravity fed. The other question was the utilities. The town engineer did provide you a report that you're all in receipt of, saying that overhead utilities would be fine, but it is still the discretion of the commission. And I believe with the 3-lot and the existence of the overhead utilities for lot 1, they were going to consider that based on the plan. Some of the other things we wanted to talk about was the topography. They fixed their plans and they meet the standards and the regulations now. I believe lot 1 is still relatively steep. There's also a question that they've since addressed, putting in street trees, but they've only proposed them along Matthews and not on Brainerd. I think citing overhead utility lines. And then they were going to relocate the driveway for lot 4 to save an existing large tree, but they have a letter from an arborist saying that the construction around the tree would end up killing it anyway, so they're just proposing a new tree there. And I think other than that, there weren't any additional kind of questions, but I'm happy to answer any, and I'm sure Jim or Nick would be as well.
Checking as chair. Thank you, Caitlin. Does any commission member want to see the plans? We can ask staff to put them up.
Dr. Marcy Paluzzi, I have a question.
Okay.
So the underground utilities is for 3 of the lots, and then above ground, poles for 1 lot, or are they requesting that it all be above ground utility?
Chuck Anders, chair. My understanding is they're requesting that they all be above ground. They've requested a waiver for all underground. And what we had discussed, I think, or suggested that if it's a 3-lot, that it's a lesser density, and maybe that might be appropriate. But I don't know. 4-lot, we were looking at maybe a little bit different, but we hadn't gone over that.
And I have one other question. And then were they saying that they weren't proposing street trees because of overhead utility lines? So
Caitlin Piazza, Marcy, they aren't proposing street trees along Brainerd, which would be the length of lot 1 on Brainerd, and then the rest of the lots front onto Matthews.
But are they? But they're proposing street trees and overhead utility lines on Matthews.
Yes.
For all 3 or 4 lots. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Marcy. Any members of the commission, do you have any questions or comments? Seeing none, then we can open it up to the public. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this application?
Caitlin Piazza, Trisha Anderson is raising her hand, so I'm going to unmute her.
Okay.
Hi,
Trisha,
everybody.
you're good.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Tricia Anderson. I'm on the RTM for District 4. I was on the last meeting where it was decided to go from 4 to 3 because at the end of that hill, it gets a little squishy in the ground. So that was a concern. The other concern is I have a constituent that lives right on the corner of Matthew and Brainerd. And his concern is, what is he going to see? If you are going to be putting houses on a hill that goes downward and utilities up above, when he looks out his picture window, is he going to see a big fat transformer and poles and wires? How aesthetic is his view going to be with these houses on Matthew? Also, at the last meeting, I had asked that the property be maintained on some level, and it hasn't. The weeds are 5 feet high. The fence is deteriorating. The fence is blown out in parts of it. It looks like a complete dumping ground, and it's terrible for the people that are still living there. And we know it's going to be a construction zone soon, and that's fine. But for right now, a little attention to detail would be greatly appreciated by the people that live there now. So I would just like to hear from the builders what their thoughts are for the corner lot, because it's a steep hill that goes down. What are the people on Matthew facing this lot? What are they going to see?
For the record, Jim Galligan from Naples Young. Yes, the corner lot is served, the electrical is served from Brainerd Road, so there won't be any pole in front of that corner lot on either side, on either the side of the existing home that has question or on the proposed home. So there won't be any power at all coming from Matthew Street to that first lot.
So will he see a roof line? How far down is the road to where they build to where, because it's a hill. So Matthew is up above and Brainerd down. No, Brainerd is up above. I'm sorry. Brainerd is up above and Matthew goes down. So that first lot, that's a pretty steep entry. So on Brainerd, is there going to be a driveway, or are all the driveways going to be down on Matthew?
For the record, Jim Galligan again. The driveway for all 4 lots are from Matthew, and in particular, this particular lot, the street grade is about 180, and the floor elevation for the house is 182. So it'll give you an idea that they're not talking about a big steep slope or anything like that to get access to the house.
Okay. Can they? I'm sorry. One more thing.
Sure, absolutely.
Again, RTM District 4. Between now and when this gets settled, developed, can somebody come down and just run a weed whacker down there and kind of clean that place up a little bit, fix the fence, make it a little better for everybody that lives there now, as opposed to a dumping ground that it is?
I'll tell you, I'll make a deal with you. If they don't want to do it, I'll come down. Weed whacking's pretty easy nowadays. So let me say that somebody will get down there and knock some of those weeds down for you.
That would be fantastic. Thank you. Sure. I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Chuck in your chair. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Any other members of the public wish to comment?
Caitlin Piazza. I'm going to unmute Kate Galambos.
Thank you, Caitlin. I'm asking just for information regarding the utilities. Does Planning and Zoning Commission have the authority to require underground utilities, considering what we saw recently with the windstorm? Seems like it might be a good option, but I don't know if P&Z has the ability to do that. Thank you.
Chuck Anders here. Thank you, Ms. Columbus. And the answer is yes, we do have authority to require underground utilities. We have the authority to waive that requirement as well, which is what they have requested, but we do have the authority to require it. And I'm sure that'll be something we discuss. Any other members, Chuck Anders here, any members of other members of the public wish to comment? If not, does the applicant, yes.
Yes, sir. Again, Jim Galligan from Naples and Young. Talking about the overhead wires and so on, I think at the very least, we would like to request that the wire that crosses the road be overhead again, so that we don't end up blocking the road during construction. It is a dead-end road, and at the very least, we'd like to not have to cut the road over.
So what is the request again? Excuse me, I'm sorry.
We're asking for overhead wires.
Right.
And what I was saying is, if you look at the plan, there's a, we have one crossing of Matthew Street. And what we would be asking at the very least, ask to have let us do overhead crossing the road. That way we don't have to dig up the road and block the entrance to like I said, it's a dead end street, and we'd rather not block the road during construction.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the applicant?
No, that's it for me. Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other questions, comments from commission members or staff?
Harry Smith, Town Planner, just one question for the applicant. In terms of crossing the road, is that how long a period would you have to basically block access? You're talking about a day for a trench, or how long?
Yeah, at least a day for the trench, because we're talking about the utility company, and
right.
We can't predict the time it would take them to do the crossing.
But it sounds like it's about a day then.
Yes, sir.
Maximum. Okay. Thank you. And it's just one crossing for that, and then
yes,
you're
sir.
Spreading out from there, right?
Yes, sir.
Underground. Thank you.
Okay. Chuck Anders here. Thank you, Harry. Any other questions from or comments from commission members or staff? Okay, seeing none, then I think we can close this matter as a public hearing. We're not in a position to vote on this because we need the clarification from the Wetlands Commission that that's going to be done. Perhaps the applicant can. Apparently, there's been some internal discussion, but we may raise that this evening at your applications for the two individual lots. So this matter is closed as a public hearing. We may talk about it later, depending on how much time we have, but we will not be voting on this.
Thank you. If I can be excused, I got to run over to wetlands.
Absolutely. Chuck Anders here. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
That brings us to item number 2, which is Tidal Basin. Excuse me, Harry.
Harry Smith, Town Planner. We do have a request from the applicant for public hearing item number 5 to be moved up. And I believe Kate has contacted Attorney Miles regarding the Tidal Basin, which would be the only other public hearing in between. And I understand she's agreeable to letting that happen if you want to proceed that way.
Okay, so just the understanding is, so item number 5, which is a public hearing, which looks like a relatively uncomplicated matter, the applicant's requesting that we hear that in front of the Tidal Basin one, which we've received a lot of public comment, may take a long time. So is that okay with commission members? John, Chuck Anders here. John, is that okay with you?
John loves Commissioner. Yes, Chuck, that's okay with me.
Joe Chadwick. Joe, does that work for you?
Chadwick's in agreement.
Joe Vayuso. Joe, does that work for you? Where's Joe Vayuso? Joe V is muted.
I can't get him unmuted. Sorry, Caitlin. You are unmuted.
Yeah, Joe Vayuso agrees.
Okay. Okay. And Marcy, are you good with that? Are you good with that?
Yes.
Oh.
Agrees.
Okay. Okay. And I'm Chuck Anders here. I'm also good with that. Okay, so then we'll take up item number 5, which is 48 Michael Marshall, applicant, IBE LLC owner, 48 North Branford Road. This is a special exception for retail sales. Is the applicant ready to proceed?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you can proceed. There was an echo there. I assume we can get that fixed.
Let me get over away from my computer.
Oh, and I see Massimo is here.
Hello.
Oh, Mr. Marshall, are you ready?
I think I have my phone on also. I'm going to turn it off. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can anybody hear me?
Chuck Anders chair, yes, we can hear you. Now you're muted.
Hello.
Mike?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, we can hear you. Chuck
Oh my
Anders
God. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, but I can't hear them then.
Oh, I guess no.
We can see you as well.
I'm just gonna shoot him something in the chat.
Is there a phone I can call in on? I'm not sure why I can't hear you guys. Can you hear me now? Can I hear you now? No.
We can hear you now, yes.
Mr. Marshall's muted right now.
Nope, you're muted now.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think he may be trying to call in.
Okay. While we're waiting for Mr. Marshall to call in, I did notice that our new alternate, Massimo Ligori, has appeared. He's personally muted. Caitlin, is there a way to unmute Massimo?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry about my had some technical difficulties here, but I'm on and I got it now.
And while we're waiting for Mr. Marshall, Chuck Anders here, Massimo, perhaps you can just introduce yourself, give commission members a little background about yourself. We're certainly welcome to have you aboard.
Okay, sure. So my name is Massimo Ligori. I've been living here in the town of Branford for over 20 years. I own a business in the center of town, a hair salon, Salon Massimo, for about 24 years now in the same location. I just love the town of Branford. So I'm really hoping that I could be a help to everybody to make things, stay great in Branford and make it even better if I can help in any way.
Chuck Anders here. Thank you, Massimo, and welcome aboard. Mr. Marshall, ready to go? I see. It looks like he's on phone, but he's muted.
He should be ready to go. I think he just needs to unmute his phone. He was on before. Mike?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me, Kate?
Yes.
Yes.
I can hear you. Oh my God, thank you. What do I need to do?
Caitlin Piazza, Mike, if you just want to go over your application, what you're proposing on the site.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Okay. I own Mamsco Construction Supply. We're currently at 9 Tipping Drive in Branford, Connecticut. We mostly sell to the trade, and we've outgrown our space. So we're moving to 48 North Branford Road, right down the street, about 3/4 of a mile. And we'd like to continue to have a small, mostly to the trade only retail operation. and do a showroom build out similar to what we have at our existing location at 9 Tipping Drive, a little bit bigger, but within the town regulations. And of course, we're going to go for a building permit and follow all the rules and whatnot. And hoping that I can get approved for that.
Chuck Andrews here. Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Anything else?
Well, I don't think so, unless you have questions.
Okay, great. Chuck Andrews here. Caitlin, you want to review the application? I don't know if there's any plans you want to show when you review it, or you just want to go over your report.
Caitlin Piazza, I can do both. I'm going to share my screen. Mike used an existing site plan that was just updated. Can y'all see that?
Okay.
Okay, so basically there's an existing 26,000 square foot building on site, and he wants to convert 5,200 square feet of that into office and retail. He's also proposing to maintain the existing parking and add a few more spaces, which you can see down here on my cursor. The rest he's proposing to leave reserved. Those spaces have been in reserve since the original approval, I think, was 2000, but certainly since 2013. The last use in here was Wilson Arms? Firearms, yes. And so the only real exterior change he's proposing is to add a few landscaping hedges along the front, and I'm having a blank as to what they're called at the moment, so let me just find that.
They're a native species. I know that. Let me see if I have it. Oh.
Okay, well, while I look for that, he's proposing that the front yard landscaping have the installation of those shrubs there and maintain 2 existing trees, hardwood trees on site. He's not proposing any landscaping along this side of the building, just kind of given the narrow strip that exists there. He's also not proposing any landscaping along this side. From what I understand, because there's a number of utilities there, it's a fairly narrow strip to the other side where another building exists, and they have some outdoor picnic tables and things like that. Other than that, he satisfies the parking requirements under the mixed-use parking calculations, and as long as the commission is willing to accept the reserved parking. I think
it's summer. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Summer Sweet Shrub.
There we go.
Plethora?
They're called Summer Sweet.
Yeah, that's Clethra onifoli. I mean, it's a nice plant. It brings in butterflies and it's a good pollinator.
Oh, that's great. Excellent. I didn't know that.
This is a point of information. Sorry to interrupt.
Chuck Andrews Chair. Caitlin, anything else?
Can I add something?
Certainly.
I just want to say that with regard to the parking spaces, if we have 8 people in our parking lot at one time, that's very unusual. Normally we only see 8 customers, 10, 12 tops during the course of the day. We do mostly deliveries. So, we do need our showroom and our retail space, but, it's not a bustling, business, so to speak, in that regard. And, we're a healthy, thriving business, but our retail walk-in, it's not like we get swamped. And like I said, I think we're going to have way more than enough parking, just to throw that in.
Yes, sure. Thank you. Gary, did you have a comment?
It's Harry Smith, Town Planner. Just identify for the record, we do have a ringer. Luzzi is a registered landscape architect. Making those comments.
Okay, great. Checking to share. Okay, any further questions or comments from staff or commission members? Okay, hearing none, then we can open it up to the public. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this application? Caitlin, do you see anybody?
Caitlin Piazza, I do not.
Okay. One more time, any member of the public wish to comment? Okay. Checking to share, seeing no members of the public wishing to comment, then I think we can close the public portion. Does the applicant have any further comments?
I don't. I should be all done.
Okay, great. Any further questions or comments from staff, commission members or staff?
Harry Smith, Town Planner, just to let the applicant know, the way the commission usually proceeds is they will continue with all the public hearings and then they will take up items that are closed that they may want to deliberate on and possibly vote on. So once the hearing's closed, you can't participate anymore. So you can certainly welcome to stay, but they may not get back to this for a little bit because they'll probably finish the rest of the public hearings, is my understanding.
So should I check in tomorrow with Town Hall and see how I made out, or is that
absolutely, yeah,
the best way? Oh, fantastic. Thank you all so very much. I really appreciate your time, and God bless everyone.
Okay, check in just here. Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Okay, so we'll close item number 5 as a public hearing, and depending on how we go, we may take this up later this evening. That brings us then back, going back to our agenda, to Tidal Basin. That's number 246 Indian Neck Avenue. That's the PDD modification master plan amendment, and we for residential development in lieu of the hotel use, and we're also considering the site plan as part of that as well. We opened this in July. There was had a public hearing on a couple of dates. We received an extensive amount of public comment, and then we received, I believe today, a letter from the applicant addressing a question about affordability. The commission should differ from what they propose. And then we just very recently received a letter from John Gauscher from DEP on the coastal site plan. So with that, is the applicant ready to proceed?
Yes. You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. For the record, my name is Megan Miles, attorney with Carmody, Torrance, and Hennessy, office at 195 Church Street in New Haven. And I am appearing on behalf of the applicant, Tidal Basin LLC. With me tonight, again, is my colleague, Greg Burton from Carmody. Also, we have our engineer, Jim Preddy of Criscolo Engineering. Joseph Seapot is our architect, and Edward Crowley is here on behalf of the applicant. I believe this is our third night of public hearing, and we just have 2 limited items to address at this point. One is a response to the comments that we received today from DEEP. I minutes ago submitted a written response to those comments. We received the comments earlier today. I put our response into writing, submitted it. So I'm going to read that into the record as well, acknowledging that I'm sure none of the commission members have read this yet. And then the other outstanding issue is affordable housing. And Chuck, Chair Andrews, as you noted, I submitted a letter into the record about that. So I will address that after the DEEP response. But I believe that's it. And of course, opening up to public comment and questions. And so first, I'm going to read my response into the record. I think it answers everything, but of course, available questions as well. And so this is a response to the DEEP comment. The purpose of this letter is to respond to referral comments received from Mr. John Gauscher of the Bureau of Water Protection and Land Reuse, Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, received on September 3rd and September 9th, 2020. DEEP is concerned that the property at 4-6 Indian Neck Avenue is inappropriate for residential use due to its location below base flood elevation in a FEMA-designated coastal AE flood hazard area, and that as a result, this project is inconsistent with the legislative policy of the Coastal Area Management Act, CAM Act, to manage coastal hazard areas so as to ensure that development proceeds in a manner that hazards to life and property are minimized. As detailed herein, residential use is both permitted in the AE flood hazard area and appropriate for this specific site, and this development ensures that hazards to life and property are minimized in accordance with the CAM Act. First, this development complies with Branford's Floatplane Management Ordinance. That ordinance does not prohibit residential use in the AE flood hazard area, and in fact, the majority of development in this flood hazard area, either existing or permitted by zoning, is residential. Rather here, that ordinance requires any new residential development to be constructed with all habitable space at least 1 foot above base flood elevation here of 12 feet. Here, the proposed first floor of our building is elevated to 18 feet, well above base flood elevation and well above Branford's requirement. In addition, all mechanicals will be elevated above base flood elevation. The standards of the Floatplane Management Ordinance are designed to specifically address and mitigate DEEP's concerns. The purpose of the ordinance is to, in part, quote, restrict or prohibit uses which are dangerous to health, safety, and property due to water or erosion hazards, or which result in damaging increases in erosion or in flood heights or velocities, and to, quote, require that uses vulnerable to floods, including facilities which serve such uses, be protected against flood damage at the time of initial construction. Close quote. In addition, its objective is to, quote, protect human life and health, quote, close quote, and to, quote, minimize the need for rescue and relief efforts associated with flooding and greatly undertaken at the expense of the general public. Therefore, by constructing this residential building in compliance with the Floodplain Management Ordinance, this development ensures that hazards to life and property are minimized. Second, the town of Branford has extensively studied this specific area for coastal resiliency planning and has nonetheless consistently recommended this area for residential use in multiple planning documents. In 2016, Branford issued the Town of Branford Coastal Resilience Plan, prepared by Malone McBroom and dated June 2016, assessing the shoreline for coastal resiliency and flood hazard mitigation. This plan did not contemplate or recommend prohibiting residential use in this area. Rather, it recommends elevating residential structures. In 2018, Branford issued the Branford Station Transit-Oriented Development Plan, the TOD plan, which identified this area for residential development. In 2019, this commission incorporated both the Coastal Resiliency Plan and the TOD plan into Branford's Plan of Conservation and Development. The POCD encourages transit-oriented residential development and to mitigate flood hazard concerns, recommends building design that can accommodate 20 inches of sea level rise by 2050. Here, by elevating this building, the habitable space, to 18 feet, this building is designed for greater than 20 inches of sea level rise. Third, the applicant is prepared to ensure that no cars are on site in advance of a possible flood event. As stated on the record at the first hearing on these applications, the applicant is amenable to a condition of approval requiring submission of a flood evacuation plan, which will, in part, require removals of all vehicles from the site in the event of a possible flood event. For example, the preliminary evacuation plan for Anchor Reef contains provisions requiring towing of all remaining vehicles not removed by residents if necessary. The applicant here is likewise amenable to the same requirement for this property, thereby ensuring that no vehicles are on site in the event of a flooding. Fourth, the siting of many of Branford's main arterial roadways below base flood elevation is a major coastal resiliency issue for Branford, and elevating a number of roadways was recommended in the Branford Coastal Resiliency Plan. In particular, that plan identified the adjacent Indian Neck Avenue for road elevation in the years 2020 to 2025. This is because potential flooding of Indian Neck Avenue impacts multiple residential neighborhoods south of this project. Elevating this roadway is a priority for the town already, and in the interim, the solution is not prohibiting residential development, but instead ensuring that such development is a model of flood resiliency such as this one, in accordance with the POCD. Finally, while DEEP has questioned the implementation of structural soil erosion and sediment control measures should the need arise, I note that there are numerous non-structural options available to the applicant. Examples include reinforcing the existing rock slope and installation of riprap and/or vegetation. Moreover, all such installation will be reviewed by DEEP because that portion of the property contains tidal wetlands. As such, while DEEP's concerns are appreciated, Branford has already thoroughly reviewed this project area for coastal resiliency in both the specific coastal resiliency plan and the new POCD. Neither review raised concerns regarding residential use at 4-6 Indian Neck Avenue. Rather, such studies recommend transit-oriented residential development designed to accommodate a 20-inch rise in sea level, which is met here. In fact, the zoning decision that prohibits residential development because the property is located in the AE flood hazard area, despite its full compliance with the flood hazard ordinances, would prevent any residential development in any flood hazard areas of Branford. Such a sweeping prohibition cannot be what is intended under the CAM Act and would have significant adverse impact on economic development in Branford. As always, I thank you for your time and attention to these applications. And the second item I wanted to address tonight is the letter I submitted regarding the provision of affordable housing. We, at the last hearing, made a very specific affordable housing offer regarding the payment of a fee in lieu for and fee in lieu of affordable housing at 4-6 Indian Neck Avenue, and a commitment to on-site affordable housing should there be any further residential development on the other parcels in the Branford River PDD. That's our offer at the moment, and the applicant does not consent to anything further at this time. And when we were holding hearings in person, normally what could happen is when the commission is considering an alternative or is about to vote, makes a motion that is seconded to vote, myself or another member of the team could jump up and say, we withdraw. No, we withdraw our applications. I can't do that now because of the Zoom online format. There's a risk I'm muted. So I submitted that letter into the record out of an abundance of caution to do what I would have done if I had to at an in-person hearing. And that's that. So the final thing is that I do want to turn it over to my colleague, Greg Burton, to address additional issues regarding affordable housing.
Thanks, Megan. Greg Burton from Carmody, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy, 195 Church Street, New Haven, Connecticut, on behalf of the applicant. Really not too much to add. I just wanted to refresh everyone's recollection as to what we offered at the last meeting, which was to include a condition in the regulation that 10% of any residential units constructed on any property within the Branford PDD would be restricted as affordable units at 80% of the area median income, with the exception that any lots less than 80,000 square feet could provide a fee in lieu of providing those units on site, with that fee in lieu being an amount equal to $20,000 per unit. And so the application of that regulation as proposed by the applicant would apply to any of the properties within the Branford PDD. That the application of that to the Tidal Basin site would result in Tidal Basin paying a fee in lieu equal to $60,000. So that would be the fee in lieu attributable to the proposed development.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Mr. Burton. Ms. Miles, are you guys, just with respect to the letter you submitted about the withdrawal, this is a fairly sophisticated application. And for something like this is not one we'd make an oral motion and vote on. We would direct staff to make a motion. So if it, in fact, would turn out that a consensus was to do something other than what you did, then we wouldn't vote right away. You would have an opportunity also to withdraw. But I understand what you submitted.
Thank you.
And does the applicant have any other further presentation you'd like to make at this time?
I'm sorry, Megan, just one quick thing on that out of some of the discussion, I think, and some of the questions at the last hearing. There was some question from the commission about having the affordability requirement applicable to all of the sites within the Branford PDD. Our proposal was to have the changes to the PDD apply to all of the sites within the Branford River PDD, and we feel like that's actually in furtherance of the commission's objective to create affordable housing in the town of Branford, to have that apply to all of the sites within the Branford River PDD. However, if the commission insisted on or preferred to have that apply only to the resolution on the Tidal Basin site, the applicant is amenable to that.
Okay, understood. Thank you, Ms. Burton. Any further comments from the applicant?
I have some concluding remarks, but I will save them for rebuttal after public comment.
Okay, great. Turn it over to staff. Does staff have any comments or questions at this time?
Sure, Harry Smith, Town Planner. I just want to start by noting for the record that Member Fred Russo has listened to a recording of the July 16th P&Z meeting in entirety. Should he turn out that he may need to participate in this application, deliberation and vote. Also just want to note for the record that all the application materials, including emails received through yesterday, are in the town's Dropbox, planning and zoning portion of that, under a folder for this particular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. And I did send to the commission about an hour prior to this meeting a small collection of emails that we received since the end of August. Also, since the comment letter from DEP came in fairly late today, I just want to put it up on the screen and read it for the commissioners. That did get sent around also to the applicant and the commissioners, but the public certainly has not had a chance to see this. I think that might be advisable. If you want me to do that, I'll go ahead.
Chuck Anderson here. Sure, Harry, why don't you put it up and read it? I think we're supposed to read that anyway, aren't we?
They usually requested our last environmental analyst requested it for everyone, but unless they request us to do it, we do not have to.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Everyone ought to be able to see it now.
Nope.
All right, it's addressed to the commission, care of myself. Dear commission members.
Chuck Anderson, Chair. Harry, we can't see it if you had intended to put it up.
All right. How about now?
Okay, yeah.
There it is.
All right, it's dated September 9th. DEP letterhead addressed to the commission members. Thank you for the opportunity to review the above referenced proposals for consistency with Connecticut Coastal Management Act, CCMA, CGS sections 22A-90 through 22A-112, inclusive policy. Office staff conducted a site inspection on September 1st, 2020, and reviewed the application materials, aerial photographs, national flood insurance rate maps, and other relevant information. Following comments are for your consideration. Under the heading Branford River PDD, the proposed modification of the PDD is to allow for a decrease in the minimum lot area per dwelling unit from 6,183 square feet to 1,730 square feet. Dwellings containing 3 or more units. Change represents an approximately 350% increase in the number of dwelling units allowed on any designated site within the PDD. Goes on to say, except for a narrow strip of land along Maple Street, the entire Branford River PDD lies within a FEMA designated AE zone, elevation 12 feet, AVD. Elevations of Indian Neck Road within the PDD are approximately 7.5 feet near the intersection with Maple Street, approximately 8.5 feet to the transition to the bridge over the Branford River, varies from 4 feet 11 inches in between those endpoints. Elevation of the road at the entrance of 4 to 6 Indian Neck is below 5 feet, which is 7 feet below the base flood elevation. Within the PDD, property where the approved hotel use is proposed to be developed with residences subject to the most extreme flooding, even in relatively frequent coastal states. For example, projected flood elevations for the 10-year frequency tidal flood Branford Harbor, based on the Army Corps of Engineers tidal flood profiles, New England coastline, prepared in 1988, is approximately 7.5 feet in AVD 88. Of note is that the updated 100-year flood elevation by FEMA is 2 feet higher than the 1988 tidal flood profile for Branford Harbor. Flooding to elevation 7.5 feet would render the road abutting 4 to 6 Indian Neck Avenue impassable, particularly considering the additional hazards due to the potential for moving water and waves. As such, emergency responders would be at high risk or unable to respond to medical emergencies, fires, and 911 calls during significant coastal flooding events. Additionally, some vehicles become buoyant in as little as 1.5 feet of flooding, which could both hinder egress, potentially cause significant property and safety hazards if they are moved by floodwater. In their coastal site plan review, the applicant did not address the proposal's consistency with the relevant coastal hazard policy, which is, in quotes, to manage coastal hazard areas so as to ensure that development proceeds in such a manner that hazards to life and property are minimized, promote non-structural solutions to flood and erosion problems, except in those instances where structural alternatives prove unavoidable, necessary to protect commercial and residential structures, appurtenances that are attached or integral thereto, constructed as of January 1st, 1995. Constructional facilities or water-dependent uses. Yes, section 92, E2F. Emphasis added for the first phrase up to the word minimized. The proposal to increase the number and density of residential uses in the PDD increases rather than minimizes the hazards to life and property inconsistent with the above policy. Additionally, there are no modifications that can be recommended that could mitigate the inconsistency. Accordingly, we recommend that the Commission deny the proposed modification of the Branford River PDD that would allow an increase in the number and density of residential uses. The heading Development Proposal says, as previously stated, the existing topography at 4 to 6 Indian Neck Avenue is very low. Large rocks have been placed along the parcel's shoreline along the Branford River. Rock is scattered in places and does not appear to have been constructed as a designated revetment. There is concern that should the property become damaged or eroded by a coastal storm, the property owner might seek to construct a seawall or other shoreline flood and erosion control structures. Relevant Connecticut Coastal Management Act policy states that, quotes, maintain the natural relationship between eroding and depositional coastal landforms and to minimize the adverse impacts of erosion and sedimentation on coastal land uses with the promotion of non-structural mitigation measures. Structural solutions are permissible when necessary, unavoidable for the protection of infrastructural facilities, cemetery or burial grounds, water-dependent uses, or commercial and residential structures and substantial appurtenances that are attached or integral thereto, constructed as of January 1st, 1995. There is no feasible, less environmentally damaging alternative, and where all reasonable mitigation measures and techniques have been provided to minimize adverse environmental impact. EGS section 22A, 92B to J added. If the property were to be developed with residential use, any future shoreline protection that would constitute a structural solution would not be permissible. Due to the severity of flooding potential at 4 to 6 Indian Neck Avenue and considering that future shoreline protection is not permissible to protect new residential development, residential use of this site should be prohibited, not encouraged. While hotel use is not ideal at this location, a hotel can be shut down ahead of a severe coastal storm and renters would need to leave. An unoccupied site would then minimize the risk to lives and reduce the hazards to property as no personal property remain in the area subject to flooding. Market forces no longer support a hotel at this site. Industrial commercial uses that leave the site vacated ahead of potential flooding events would appear to represent the highest and best uses of the site considering the development constraints resulting from severe flooding potential. I hope these comments are helpful to the Commission as you consider the proposed changes to the Branford River PDD. Please contact John Goucher of my staff, 860-424-3660, or via email at johngoucher at CPF. If you have any questions or if you need any additional information regarding this matter. Sincerely, Brian P. Thompson, Director, Land and Water Resources Division. So I really have nothing additional beyond that to offer. They provide some comments at the public hearing portion on July 16th. I just would note that, of course, this letter and the applicant's response that was read into the record earlier, of course, received less than 24 hours prior to the public hearing resuming tonight. So therefore, have really not been posted in the Dropbox or available to members of the public. Commission want to consider that, but determining whether you want to close the public hearing tonight or not.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Harry. Any questions or comments from commission members before we open it up to the public?
Marcy Paluzzi, I just have one. The language for the Branford PDD, which properties does that include again?
What language are you referring to, Harry Smith, Town Planner?
They were referring to the Branford River PDD. Is that because I remember the PDD had been split at one point. So I'm trying to understand what all that applies to.
Right. So the Branford River PDD constitutes, there's a property that hosts the brewery, the parking lot for the brewery, as well as the overflow parking lot on the north side of Indian Neck Avenue, abutting up to the Shoreline East Railroad and Maple Street and the overpass. And it also includes this property, 4 to 6 Indian Neck Avenue, where the hotel was approved and this residential development is proposed.
So what portion of the road does it include? The through road of Indian Neck Avenue? Any or just the properties?
It's really just the properties that are private properties, but the Indian Neck Avenue intersects the PDD, if you will.
Right.
It goes between the overflow lot and the brewery lot, and as it hits the cattle crossing, it divides site for this development from the brewery.
Right, and then it's just the right side at the end where it hits Maple, right? For the overflow lot.
Yes.
Okay. Right. I understand.
Sorry, Greg Burton for Carmody. Just for the record, it's 2 Indian Neck is the overflow lot, 5 Indian Neck is the brewery parcel, and 4-6 Indian Neck is the Tidal Basin property.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Burton.
No problem.
Chuck and Chair, any other questions or comments from commission members? Seeing none, then let's open it up for public comment. Any members of the public wish to comment on this?
Caitlin Piazza, I'm going to unmute Jeanette.
Hello, commissioners and staff. My name is Jeanette Rudensic. I live at 33 Harding Avenue in Branford. I've commented on this project before, and I'll comment again tonight briefly. The applicant is dreaming, is obfuscating talk of elevations and towing cars. The residents in this proposed development will be stranded. This is multifamily housing. This is not someone taking on risk for themselves and their own family. The applicant claims we're going to tow cars, we're going to move cars. The people are still living there. Consider quite seriously the cost to the city of Branford should this development go forward. Police, fire, evacuations, room for towed cars, damages, the impassability of those roads on even minor storms, as we saw just a couple of weeks ago, that area was flooded. Not the lot itself, but the access road. Why should the taxpayers of Branford have to cover the cost for a private developer who has acted foolishly? This is a terrible place for housing of any kind, and I strongly encourage the commission to reject it totally. Thank you.
Chuck Anders, Chair, thank you. Other members of the public wish to comment?
Caitlin Piazza, I don't see anyone else's hands. Oh, sorry, I see somebody waving.
Hi, good evening. Are we on?
Chuck Innersteer, yes, you can proceed.
Okay. John and Cheryl Harpool at Kirkham Street here. Unfortunately, we've seen such a dramatic increase in the traffic down our very busy street, and we realize that this is a major thoroughfare to get to the shoreline, not only the businesses, but homes and our beautiful Branford Point and the beach. So I'm just afraid that having that many more residents jammed into such a little area, especially when we're talking about Atlantic Wharf and then down by Anchor Reef, that beautiful, beautiful section of Branford River that we'll never, ever be able to recover that beauty. And if you've ever kayaked or dinghied down there, it's just incredible. It is incredible. And to throw almost 400 new residences into that area, it just blows my mind. It really does. There's the question of the environment, all the trucks that are going to be moving through there, the heavy equipment, the cement trucks. And I'm not against, planned and smart development, but along this beautiful, pristine, small stretch of river, I just think is a terrible idea. And I don't know, I haven't read anything about if the residents are going to be having children, the burden that would place on our schools as well. And with all this crazy COVID and just we're having to do this Zoom meeting, I don't know. I strongly, strongly oppose it. It's just not the right time. I don't know if it'll ever be a right time. Apartments, it just doesn't make sense. I would suggest that Mr. Crowley turn that Paul's Wire and Rope property into a beautiful park, and we'll call it Crowley Park. Thank you.
Chuck Innersteer, thank you, Mr. Harpools. Other members of the public wish to comment?
Piazza, I'm going to unmute Pat.
Can you hear me?
Not really.
Hello?
Pat Dugan? Yes, we can barely hear you.
Hello?
That's better.
Caitlin Piazza, I think she lost her connection, so I'm just going to move on to the next person for now. Gia?
Thank you. My name is Gia Polio. I live at 48 Harding Ave, and I also have spoken at several meetings. I would just like to say that on August 27th, there was the second storm of the season that was pretty devastating to the Branford area. And although Mr. Crowley has said that he's going to have an evacuation plan and have cars out of there, we were given such a short notice that storm was going to hit. There was a posting that came across the phones for an emergency alert that only gave us a very short time, less than 10 minutes, to take shelter and coverage. So that was sent to automatically in a short amount of time, 10 or 15 minutes. He wouldn't have had the ability to evacuate the lot appropriately to avoid flooding and get the residents of the Tidal Basin to safety. So, that's just a example of something that's happened very recently. That was, again, it was the second storm that happened in a short period of time. So just for those reasons, although the intention is great to evacuate those people, it's just at times it's not going to be doable based on Mother Nature and how quickly it can come and hit an area.
Chuck Anders Chair. Thank you, Ms. Polier. Any other members of the public wish to comment?
Caitlin Piazza, I'm going to unmute Mary.
Hi, Mary Sampson here. I live at 25 Harding Avenue in Branford, and I'm still concerned about the parking itself. I think there were 39 places for 30 units. And already I didn't think that was very much parking. Now they're talking about if it floods, we're going to move the cars. I'm wondering where the cars are going to go to begin with. It doesn't seem like enough parking. And if people start parking on Indian Neck Avenue or over by Meadow Street, it's already a difficult place with so many pedestrians, and it's a busy area. And you have to be careful if you're going already, but I just think it's going to make for so many hazards with the parking, the cars, and now we're talking floods. I just think it sounds like a bad idea. All of it.
Chuck Anders Chair. Thank you, Ms. Sampson. Any other members of the public, Caitlin?
Gia has her hand back up. I'm going to unmute.
Hi, sorry, I have Pat Dugan here with me. Who's gonna speak.
Okay, all right, go ahead. Hi, my name is Pat Dugan. I live in the Indian Neck neighborhood. Last Monday, I asked my husband to drive me all around the town. I was looking for something. I wanted to know how many buildings in our town were 50 feet tall. I had to estimate what 50 feet tall is. I used 4 stories high as an approximation. Of course, the Blackstone Library Dome is probably 50 feet tall. There's a complex in the center of Branford near the post office known as the Tower that is over 50 feet tall. There's an apartment building on Summit Place on Branford Hills whose center peak appears to be 50 feet high, but the rest of the building is 3 stories high. I remember the old St. Mary's Church was a very tall building. The church steeples on the town green appear to be very tall. On my way home, I saw the Anchor Reef condominiums on Maple Street. They are almost 50 feet tall. But I could not find any other 4-story buildings in town. Even the MIF wasn't 50 feet tall unless you count the smokestack. Passing the Stony Creek Brewery, I think the peaks on that roof might be 50 feet tall. So my question is this: why are 5 almost 50-foot high residential buildings being considered at this meeting? According to the Town of Branford's Evacuation and Sheltering Guide, this area is noted as roads prone to flooding. Why is this development being considered? There can only be one answer: developer greed. The Tidal Basin and Mariner's Landing proposals are so out of scale and have such a high density that it makes absolutely no sense. I question who is benefiting from this proposed development: the people in the town of Branford or the developers. Thank you for your time.
Chuck Anders Chair. Thank you, Ms. Dugan. Other members of the public wish to comment?
Caitlin Piazza, I don't see anybody else's hand or anybody waving at me.
Okay. Does the applicant have further comments? Sure.
Thank you, Chair. So to directly respond to a couple of the public comments, a number of these issues we've rehashed in the prior hearings, but the concern about traffic, I remind the commission that we submitted a traffic letter from Dave Sullivan and Malone McBroom, concluding that the level of traffic for the change of use to the residential is slightly less than what it would have been for the approved hotel. So there's no negative impact on traffic. Regarding building height, the building height is the same as the approved hotel, and it's already a height that's permitted in the Branford River PDD. And then regarding the number of parking spaces, the parking level provided complies with the zoning regulations for residential use. And Branford's parking requirements are actually fairly high. And we did not request to decrease the requirement. So we comply with the existing zoning regulations. And also notable is that this site is right next to the train station. So that reduces the parking demand for residents even further. And then the final note, noting about the storm on August 22nd. Yeah, that was a tough storm. That was not a flooding event. That was, I believe, possibly a tornado. So that was a sudden event, but it was not a flooding event. And then regarding the deep letter read into the record, I already provided a full response to that. We did address the CAM Act in our applications, designing this building in accordance with the flood management ordinance and to prepare for greater than 20 inches of sea level rise by 2020. Satisfies the CAM Act and its intent, and denying residential use because of sites in the 80 flood hazard area is unduly broad application of the CAM Act. And then also to note about shoreline protection. No future shoreline protection is likely needed because this building is constructed on pilings as well. So that is not vulnerable to erosion impacts. And with that, I think I'm going to conclude my presentation. The town of Branford has extensively studied this area, and it's clear it's because this area has immense economic potential. It's right next to the train station, and it's right on the water. It's a really beautiful spot of Branford. And Branford is also very concerned about coastal resiliency and has extensively studied it as well. And the result was your POCD, which encouraged transit-oriented development, including residential, so long as it is designed to accommodate potential sea level rise, which here is 20 inches. And that's exactly what this application is. It is a modest residential building that is designed to accommodate potential sea level rise. And I want to underscore that it's modest. I understand that this commission either has pending or has just received a number of applications for residential units. This project is only 30 units in a building bulk that's already been approved for a hotel. And coupled with the brewery across the street, this modest residential building with the brewery really has the potential to create an active village-like atmosphere at this area of Branford, right near the train station, right on the water. And that is coupled with its model flood resiliency. The fact that it will provide housing diversity that Branford needs, as I reiterated at prior hearings. Apartment units really provide important housing diversity. They provide housing for Branford's older residents that want to continue to live in Branford, but don't want the burdens of a single family home. And it also provides housing to young professionals in Connecticut who can move to Branford and get introduced to the town who are not yet ready or able to buy a single family home. This is coupled with a $25,000 cash contribution to the boardwalk to be constructed off the site, and a commitment to provide a 10-foot public access easement across this property to connect the public to the boardwalk. And to continue the list, propose $60,000 towards the provision of affordable housing in Branford and a commitment to provide on-site affordable housing elsewhere in the PDD if there is residential development. So the gist is that this is the same building bulk that was approved for the hotel, with the continued commitment to all the coastal access provisions that were required by the commission in the past, but now proposes a quieter use, which is clearly a concern of the neighbors. They have a lot of noise concerns about the brewery. Clearly, they want a quiet use here. This is quieter than a commercial hotel. Slight traffic reduction and money towards affordable housing in Branford, which this is above and beyond what's been approved for the hotel. So I understand, to conclude, I understand that Branford has a number of planning goals: the provision of affordable housing, coastal resiliency, transit-oriented development. This application hits everyone nail on the head. It satisfies all those goals in a really appropriate way. So
No, it doesn't. Well, let's move on, people.
Thank you, Ms. Miles. Do we have further questions from commission members or staff?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. I just want to note that this is being cast, I guess it's been stated a couple times, as if the commission denied this, would be prohibiting residential development. In point of fact, the residential development is not allowed in the PDD at the moment, and certainly not at this particular location.
it is allowed.
No, it's not. Not in the master plan for it. The last master plan revision, when the PDD was actually divided into properties back in 2014, I believe, in the beginning of it. This was slated for commercial industrial use, even though the PDD itself has that use. It's not designated anywhere in this PDD. No designation for residential use in this PDD right now. Actually, the last bulk requirement chart that I found in the record had dashes for residential development density. There was no contemplation of residential development in the last approval for the development PDDs. I believe that the commission would, if they choose to deny it, for example, would just simply be deciding not to allow it. Also, just want to be specific, the transit-oriented development plan that was part of the plan of conservation development noted that this site was approved already for a hotel and did not really say anything specific about proposing residential development. This particular noted it as it was already approved for a hotel. Thank you.
Checking in, Chair. Thank you, Harry. Any other comments from commission members or staff?
Chair, okay. Fred Russo.
Yes, Fred.
One observation I've made living in the Indian Neck area is that the current business that was there, Paul's Wire, in and of itself, they had a loading dock. And anybody that's made that hairpin turn knows that Paul had trailer trucks coming in, and they would go up around the curve, then back in, and create a serious traffic problem, I think. I think whatever goes there, if anything is going to go there, it could be better controlled than what's there right now. I think what's there now, as far as traffic, is more dangerous than cars parked under a garage that leave at interval times. But the way it is now, I'm not fond of what's there myself, but I just thought I'd put that in there.
Checking his chair. Thanks, Fred. Any other comments from commission members?
I do. I just, there was some reference to, the public and, town center, and I just don't feel that I'm seeing the site development on this site as far as, how the land's going to be used around the hotel, in and around the parking, any treatment of the river, to restore it. If it's not going to be open for the public, any real access to the river other than just a roadway, which is really, in my mind, just a fire road. I just think there's so much more opportunity to integrate the land with the building, and I'm not seeing that here. And I just kind of want to make note of that. I mean, I think that's a smaller issue relative, other than the flood kind of concerns, but I just think that the application is a little bit deficient on that merit.
Thank you, Marcy. Any other comments from commission members? Does the applicant want to comment? I think Mr. Burton, did you I see your hand raised?
Sorry, that was my technical error. Sorry, as a point of order, point of clarification, Mr. Smith noted residential is not permitted. I don't believe that's correct. The table of permitted uses for the Branford River PDD that was included in that approval did include residential use, as that was one of the permitted uses. So I just want to clarify that residential use is in that table of permitted uses. There may be some question about the applicable bulk standard. We've applied, part of our request here does address the bulk standard question. And we actually weren't able to confirm what the existing bulk standard was because we didn't have access to the town records because of COVID. But that density issue is addressed by our application. But just residential use is indicated as a permitted use in the table of uses for the Branford River PDD when it was created.
If I could respond, Harry Smith, town planner, but that is correct. My point is that it's not identified in the approved master plan as located anywhere within the Branford River PDD. And there are actually statements in the record, even though it's retained in the table of uses, that the two lots that constitute the Branford River PDD now, plus this additional area, no statements were made about that. The two lots that constitute the brewery site and the overflow parking were not stated as to remain commercial and industrial in the record. Even though you're correct, it is listed in the uses, but there's marina uses and there's a lot of uses listed in that are not present in the PDD currently.
Chuck Innes here. Thank you, Harry. Any other questions, comments from commission members? Okay, we have the issue of, because this DEP letter came in today,
sorry,
we're supposed to file things in advance, whether we need to keep this open. Mr. Burton?
I'm sorry, Chairman Anders. I actually wanted to speak to that just briefly.
Sure.
Mr. Smith had noted that during his comments, and I apologize. But, obviously, any public hearing, there's information that's presented during the course of the public hearing. I understand the deep letter did come in late. Frankly, it's a challenge to us to respond to that, coming in late, but that's the nature of a public hearing. And quite often there's comments from the public, comments from the commissioners that also get presented in the course of the public hearing. And that information gets presented in the course of the hearing. And the requirement is that we just respond to it as it comes up. Both the deep letter and our response to the deep letter have been read into the record. So unless there was a need for additional new information to be presented, the applicant feels strongly that we've had enough opportunity to present all of the information into the record and that there's an adequate record at this point. So we would ask that the public hearing be closed.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Okay. That's something we can talk about. I mean, here are the issues. The issues are, we have, this is the third public hearing. We've had 2 in July and, one in September. It's been open a long time. There's, we don't like to keep public hearings open, just keep them open. We like to process applications. The technical issue, that said, the issues are, this is a DEP letter. It's pretty significant. This is a major letter, I think, and it came in today. The COVID stuff encourages responses or applicant materials, I think, to be on file 24 hours. And even opponents, if you can. That said, I think Mr. Bird's correct. The nature of a public hearing is that, the idea is you don't pre-file everything. You say stuff, you bring things in right at the public hearing. So that could be an issue. So it's not necessarily a problem if something's new. But then you have the issue of, this is a fairly, significant DEP letter. The public may not have looked at it. And I don't know. I mean, we did hear some public comments that reflected, and certainly some members did see it. But it's a significant public hearing. So do we want to keep it open for one more week? Because we have a meeting next week. That's it. So even if we kept it open, wouldn't be one. So that's that. Those are sort of the issues. What does commission members? Any thoughts, anyone?
What's one more week? Fred Russo, what's one more week? to leave it open.
Okay. Anyone else?
What's the, Marcy Pulisier, what's the timeline as far as the number of days we've had open and how many more days before we're required to close it? Isn't there statutory?
That raises a question. Thank you, Marcy. That's, first of all, I think Harry had done the math because we got an extra 90 days because of COVID, and I think we're okay. But am I also, let me just ask the applicant this. I'm assuming that you filed 2 applications, the PDD modification and also a site plan. And do you agree that the timetable for the site plan, which, you know, if the zoning already in place allowed the site plan, would be 65 days plus whatever we get, that the timetable for that coincides with the underlying, the same for the PDD application? Does the applicant agree with that? And Mr. Burton, you're shaking your head yes, but for the record, or you're muted, I guess. I guess somebody needs to unmute you.
Well, I was going to say that
Megan.
Sorry.
Miles, right.
Megan Miles for the record. There's statutory timelines for site plans, and we have a site plan application, so that's what guides the timeline here. I think the PDD modification is considered a zone change. Regulation amendment. So if there are statutory timelines, they are not shorter than site plan. So I think following the site plan is the right way to go.
Well, that's my point. My point is, first of all, I think we get an extra 90 days, which we're probably okay with. Did you do that? That gets us into November, correct?
Yeah, Harry Smith, town planner. I looked at it in terms of applying to the 65 days for the site plan, as well as the clock that started when the public hearing for the PDD mod started in the first meeting in July, which would have given us 35 days for the public hearing, which we would have run through already, absent any other time extension. But it's the 65-day normal time extension aside, you add the 35 days with the 90 days, that takes us to early November PDD, and looking at 65 plus 90 from the start of when the application was accepted record, that still takes us to early November. So I think either for both applications, you have until early November with the 90-day addition.
Right. Okay. No, I understand that. But here's what I'm still objecting to, Ms. Miles, is that for the PDD, the site plan, we're going to deny the site plan unless we approve the PDD. We can't approve it because that's a zone change. But yet the time frame for a zone change is 65, 35, 65 under the normal statutory 870 time. And that's not the same for a standalone site plan. So if I agree with what you said earlier, then we would just have 65 days to decide both applications, although we get an extra 90 because of that. And I'm disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is that the 65, 35, 65, because you have that is a necessary component of your application, that applies to both applications. And I'm asking if you agree with that.
I do.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. And I know for the record, there's a coastal site plan too.
Correct. So and if we do nothing, it's denied. Right. It's not an automatic approval. I'm avoiding the automatic approval.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate
everyone hates that. Okay, so then we still have the question. Fred said, hey, what's more week? Anyone else have any comments about keeping the public hearing open solely because of this DEP letter and response received right today? I mean, but for that, I would say we should close. But anyway, anyone else?
Joe.
You are unmuted.
This is Joe Ayuso. I think one more week wouldn't hurt. I mean, technically, it would just keep things neat and clean by keeping it open one more week.
Okay. Any other comments from the commission members? Checking this year. Okay, I think, guys, I think we will keep it open for a week. I think it's fair, and it's technical stuff. Just from the DEP letter is a significant letter. It came in today, and it wasn't filed 24 hours in advance. And a lot of came in just hours ago. So, and give you guys credit for responding quickly. So we will do that. Keep on one for the next meeting, and the intention would be to close it at the next meeting for that.
So it's continued to the next regular meeting, 9/17. We remotely held via Zoom. Right?
Yes, that's correct, Harry. Chuck Anders chair. Why are we echoing?
I don't know.
Just thank you to the commission members for your consideration of this application. We appreciate everybody's time and effort spent working through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Thank you, Ms. Miles. We appreciate your presentation. Okay, so that brings us then to item number 3, which is Miranda's Landing. And this is one where the applicant had requested that it was on the September 3rd regular agenda and requested that it go to our September 17th meeting because they are still responding to additional information. They need to respond to some of the staff comments. Harry, is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Harry Smith, Town Planner, that's my understanding, is that they're preparing additional information.
Right. Okay, so what I typically do is in cases like this where we have a public hearing that's being continued to a future date, I will open it up to members of the public who don't think they can make next week's meeting. I would again recommend that you hold your comments to next week's meeting, in part to see what they come up with. You want to see what the additional information is, and then make your comments then, and it's also fresher. But if anyone would like to speak at tonight's meeting, and it is a public hearing, we can open it up. So Chuck Anders here again. So Caitlin, is anyone will ask any member of the public wish to speak on this matter? And I don't even see Caitlin. Is she here? Can't even see her voice. Where did Caitlin go?
He's indicated as here, but I don't know. I'm looking down myself and I can see no raised hands. Looks like
he's here.
He's here. It doesn't look like anybody wants to speak. I'll scroll through the grid. I don't see anyone waving. I don't see any indication anyone wants to talk.
Okay. Okay, then, assuming no one, then again, one more time, Gary, just confirming you don't see anyone wishing to speak on the Mariner's Landing at this time.
Yep. Caitlin seems to be having a technical difficulty. She's actually in the office with me in her individual office and just came over, and we'll be having a technical problem she's trying to resolve.
Okay, great. Okay, then. So seeing no one here, then this matter will be continued. The Mariner's Landing public hearing will be continued to our September 17th meeting. That's a week from today, a remote meeting as well. So that brings us, and that was items number 3 and 4. So that brings us, that concludes our public hearings for this evening. And it brings us then to our minutes. We have approval of minutes. We have the July 16th minutes and the August 12th special meeting minutes. So that were sent out. So we should probably do them one at a time. So is someone, if we reviewed the July 16th motion, and if it looks okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes? I don't know if you had any changes, but we'll throw it out there. Any member wish to make a motion on the July 16th minute?
Chuck, John Lusk, Commissioner. I'll make that motion.
Okay, John makes a motion to approve the July 16th minutes. Is there a second?
Joe Chadwick seconds.
Joe Chadwick second. Okay, we'll take a vote then. John, do you vote to approve?
John Lusk, Commissioner. Vote to approve.
And Joe Chadwick?
You are unmuted.
Vote to approve.
Joe Vayuso?
I move to approve.
Marcy? Okay, Marcy is, we need a verbal response for the record, Marcy.
I'm unmuted now. I vote to approve.
Okay, and Chuck Anders chair, I also vote to approve. Okay, so the July 16th minutes are approved. Someone went in motion for the special meeting for August 12th, approval of those minutes.
John List, Commissioner. Chuck, I'll make that motion.
Okay, John Lust makes a motion to approve the August 12th minutes. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Joe Chadwick seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? John?
John List, Commissioner, in favor.
Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick in favor.
Joe Vayuzo?
You are unmuted.
Joe Vayuzo?
Joe Vayuso agrees. I'm being muted. I'm coming on late. Sorry.
Okay. Marcy?
Marcy Pelosi.
You vote in favor? Nods your head yes. And,
Yes, I approve.
Yes, and Chuck Anders chair also votes to approve. We still have an annoying background. We know why that is.
It's Joe Vayuso's phone.
Oh, okay.
Is it? Really?
Yes.
Sorry. Yes. Same phone had all these.
Okay, that brings us then to correspondence. Harry, any correspondence?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. We do have a couple of items that have piled up here. Most of them have to do with cellular communication. One is a little different. It's notice regarding a proposal by Eversource for an omnidirectional standalone antenna. I believe is related to their own internal operations. I don't know what that was. Sorry. It is proposed for their existing substation at 272, 276 East Main Street. It would be one new 24-foot, 3-inch tall omnidirectional antenna on the existing pole. Some other ancillary equipment. We've also received a proposal for construction of 115-foot self-support tower, ancillary equipment at Branford DOT facility on Leeds Island Road. I think because of the fact this is a state facility, it has to go through a called a Section 106 public outreach. Fortunately, we received this the end of July, and the period has closed, so the commission needed the opportunity to comment on this. I'll investigate a little further to see if there's anything else to be said. The pressure business, I really did not review this myself. It seems to be basically similar to a cell tower. It was on a DOT facility. It appears to be about 100 feet tall. And is on it. And received also another document related to the omnidirectional communications device for Eversource at their substation. That's it.
Okay, Chair. Thank you, Harry. Okay, then why don't we take up the public hearing number 5, the Mr. Marshall, 48 North Branford Road, special exception for retail sales. And that was a matter that I think Caitlin had prepared a staff report on and had recommending findings and conditions. It didn't seem to be any, I don't think there was no public comment. It seemed to be okay. There's, landscaping proposed and so forth. I don't know if Caitlin is here or she's available or what's going on.
I think she is.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, is that a yes?
Yes.
Hey, Caitlin, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Feel like everybody else is pain now. Okay, would it be helpful to pull up the staff report for?
Yeah, why don't you pull up the proposed findings and conditions?
Okay. Everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so the only finding is for special exception criteria. So subject to the compliance with the conditions listed below, the commission finds based on the testimony and application materials presented that the proposed use of the property is consistent with the special exception criteria. First condition, I think I said before, he's proposing to preserve the two existing large hardwood trees at the front of the property. There's really no outside activity, but some of the few landscaping that exists. So any kind of future damage to it, that will need to be repaired. Building and zoning permit shall be required prior to any exterior or interior alterations as depicted on the site plan. And then prior to the issuance of a certificate of zoning compliance or the authorization for the issuance of any certificate of occupancy, the following shall be addressed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. A submittal of a financial guarantee to ensure the survival of the plant materials in favor of the town of Branford. And that is not to be a surety bond. All current lighting shall be brought into conformance with the zoning regulations. There's no additional lighting proposed as part of this, but I think there was one exterior floodlight that wasn't in compliance with our regulations. All parking shall be striped as indicated on the plan and shall conform to the dimensional requirements in section 6.5E and 6.5S of the zoning regulations. And this was kind of more of a question if you wanted to include this. It's for the side yard. I'm sorry, for the planting bed requirements, that requires that 25% of the building be planted with some kind of landscaping. He just proposed those, I'm forgetting the sweet bush, I think what it was. If you wanted to require any additional, again, the constraints were kind of just that there was an entranceway that's completely paved on one side and some utilities and a fairly narrow strip on the other, and a parking lot to the rear. So I don't know if you wanted to add that requirement or just leave it as is.
We'll stop you there. Marcy, do you have any thoughts one way or the other? Because landscaping, I think of you.
Knowing the area, I'm not overly concerned. But I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other, to be perfectly honest on this one.
Okay, thanks, Marcy. Kate, checking in here. Caitlin, can we find it complies with the regulations without it? I mean, that's my only question is, does the regulations require it?
Harry Smith, town planner, you have the provision in the regulations that allow you to make basically determination that you're only bringing existing site features into conformance with the new regulations to the extent practical. So, sort of a judgment call there with previously approved sites where there's been changes and potentially increases in requirements since they were initially built. Uses go in. You make a determination that, well, it's not really practicable to bring everything up to our regulation.
And he is providing some additional landscaping, correct?
Fixing some lighting issues, and there's a definite effort to bring, many aspects of the property into total conformance with current regulation. Okay.
Well, I don't feel strongly either, so I'm happy to delete it.
Okay.
Okay. What do everyone else think?
John Lusk, Commissioner, I'm in agreement with you, Chuck. I know the site pretty well, and like Marcy said, you know, I don't have a strong opinion that we need to bring it up to the current standards.
Okay, yeah. Anyone else?
Joe Chadwick speaking. I think there's no reason to be burdensome.
Right.
Especially if it's in a place that it can't be appreciated or be helpful.
Right.
Okay, great. Joe Bayuso, any comments?
You are unmuted.
No, I don't have any comments.
Okay, great. Thanks, Joe. Okay, we'll just take. You can remove D.
Okay, I will do that. Number 4 is kind of similar to the first condition, and it's just that if any significant tree on the property is removed or damaged, it has to be replaced with a similar size tree. And then number 5, to ensure continued compliance with the zoning regulations, all landscaping must be maintained as an ongoing requirement of this approval. And I think that is a double. I think we can remove number 6 because we already went over lighting. So numbers 3, B, and 6 can be removed.
Okay, great.
And that's it.
Okay, any further comments from commission members? Again, I guess there are 5 regular members are voting on this. So if not, someone want to make a motion to approve the application in accordance with the findings and the conditions in the September 3rd report that Marcy just reviewed, again, deleting 3D and number 6.
Move to approve is amended. Motion by Chadwick.
Motion made, Chuck Anderson, motion made by Joe Chadwick. Is there a second?
A second, Marcy Paluzzi.
Chuck Anderson, second by Marcy. Any further discussion? All those in favor? We'll go through the list. John, how do you vote?
John Lust, Commissioner, in favor.
Joe Chadwick?
You are
Joe Chadwick in favor.
Joe Bayuso?
Joe Bayuso in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy Paluzzi in favor.
And the chair also votes in favor. Okay, so that's off our agenda. So let's go on to new, we have old business. Those are Tidal Basin Mariners. For new business, item number 1 of new business, we have it's the Sukasa Building, the medical office, and we have a public hearing scheduled for our next meeting on September 17th. And I guess, Caitlin, you can take this motion off the boards now. Item number 2, I believe we can proceed. That's Robert and Patricia Deschamps, applicant and owner, 257 Coastal Shore Drive. This is the coastal site plan only, demolition of an existing house, rebuild of a FEMA compliant house. It's in actually in short peak zoning, but we review the coastal site plan. The applicant ready to proceed on that?
Yes, Jim Preddy, Criscolo Engineering. Can you hear me, Chuck?
Chuck Anderson, yes, Jim, we can hear you.
Okay. I had to ask the question. I'm using my son's new laptop because he has better tech than I do. If I could share the screen, this will probably go quicker. Show the plan.
Okay, hopefully staff can allow you to do that.
Jim, Caitlin, you should be able to do that now.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the plan for 257 Shore Drive. What's shown here in the dotted line that I'm outlining with my cursor is the existing house. The back side of the house that faces Long Island Sound has a set of stairs. It's quite large. And it goes all the way to, we're matching the front on the street side, and the old building comes all the way out here, closer to the street. We're taking the house down and rebuilding it basically within all the setbacks. including the 25-foot critical coastal resource setback. We're removing those stairs. What exists out here now is lawn at out to an existing seawall that's been there for a number of years. Again, we're planning to take the building down, make the house more conforming. We're asking for a few small variances for the new house. The old house had a laundry list of existing nonconformities. And the Long Island Sound over here, a modified beaches or bluffs and escarpments, I believe, because of the existing seawall. This area behind here is considered a flood hazard area on the mapping, even though we are pulling the house out of the VE zone. Currently, the stairs extend within the VE zone. We're pulling it back. New house, existing gravel drive will remain, and the existing lawn area between the house and the wall will remain. And that's pretty much it. It's fairly simple.
Chuck Anderson here. Thank you, Mr. Preddy. Caitlin, you prepared a staff report on this. You want to review highlights for us?
Caitlin Piazza, yes, I did. Like Jim said, we're just reviewing this for coastal site plan. It's in short beach zoning, so any of the setbacks or anything like that, we're not looking at like we usually do. I think I'm just going to start with that this was sent to DEEP and was reviewed. I believe the only comments were, I can't pull up my comments now, some additional erosion controls, and this doesn't necessarily apply because there's no impact to the seawall, but apparently this seawall that exists on site was never permitted through DEP. So they're going to have to go through that process. But again, there's no impact to that or change as part of this application. So unless the commission feels otherwise, staff kind of took the stance that we can incorporate the additional erosion controls into the conditions of approval. But outside of that, I think the only thing I highlighted to consider was that as part of a coastal site plan, just taking into consideration ecologically fragile areas and natural resources, that the commission can require some additional vegetation. I think for the most part, this area, it's a small lot and a little tight. So I think there's just existing lawn, and I believe the applicant wants to maintain that, to maintain their view. But it is in the commission's ability to require some planting that would be appropriate for the site. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, to share. Thank you, Caitlin. Any questions, comments from commission members or staff?
Sorry.
John, I'm sorry, Marcy, go ahead.
Marcy Paluzzi, I just wanted to know how high the seawall was. From the height of the wall to say mean high tide.
Jim Preddy, Crystal Engineering. I believe the top of the wall's about 6.5, elevation 6.5, something like that. And then it slopes up a little bit to the existing house.
And the first floor is at
you
what
can see
elevation?
along here, 7.2, 9.2 in the front. It slopes up toward the road.
So the first floor is at what elevation?
The first floor is at
10?
elevation 13.
Okay. So is there
So the building
any kind of parking underneath the house?
No, just in the front.
Okay.
No, the parking will not be underneath. We are in the AE11 zone here, so we're 2 feet above with the first floor.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. John Luss, Commissioner, do you know what year the seawall was built?
I do not. Mr. Deschamps is on also here. He may. I couldn't find any record of it. It was there long before he built the house.
Do you know if it predates 1995?
I believe it predates 95 unless it was repaired, which it doesn't really look like it, but it doesn't. I couldn't find it. They didn't have. I couldn't find this area in the what's it, the 34 aerials to see if it went back that far.
Okay.
I believe Robert Deschamps is on here. If you can unmute him, he may know.
I also do not know when it was built.
Have you contacted DEP yet about authorization for the wall?
I'm looking to contract with Coastal Consulting to, document the wall. I have spoken with them, and they said it's a matter of documenting what is currently there, and we're in the process of working with Coastline Consulting to do that.
That's good. That's good. I bring it up because if it wasn't there pre-95, as we heard earlier tonight, the DEP is going to be reluctant to approve it, to approve a wall there when you replace the house. So I would look at some aerial photographs, and I would, document before you did anything that the wall predates, 1995, January 1, 1995.
Caitlin Piazza, sorry.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
Caitlin, just kind of as a potential resource, I know Google Earth has a time lapse that goes back pretty darn far, certainly to 1995. Might not be the best quality, but you might be able to see it in an aerial view that way. Just a suggestion.
Sure.
Checking here. Any other comments, questions from commission members or staff?
John Luss, Commissioner again. It looks very straightforward and it looks fine. Regarding the vegetated buffer, I don't think it's appropriate here. I mean, you put one in to protect the resource, and with the seawall there, I don't think the vegetated buffer is going to do any more to protect the resource. And I think they need the lawn for the family. So, I don't know, just my opinion.
Chuck Annis here. Thank you, John.
Marcy Paluzzi, I tend to agree. Or I do agree, I should say, but I was just looking at it from a different approach. So.
Chuck Annis here. Any other thoughts from anyone? If not, then maybe we can vote on this. Marcy, can you pull up your staff resolution? I mean, not Marcy, excuse me, Caitlin?
I don't have it memorized.
Yes. Okay, so Caitlin Piazza, the proposed findings are that the proposed activity as approved is consistent with the coastal policies in CGS section 22A-92. The proposed activity incorporates conditions or modifications which would mitigate potential adverse impacts of the proposed activity on coastal resources and future water-dependent development activities, and the potential adverse impacts of the proposed activity on coastal resources and future water-dependent development opportunities with the conditions or modifications imposed by the Commission as part of this approval are acceptable. We just have two conditions per section 9.7E. One to have final plans bearing a copy of the decision letter of the Commission and any other town regulatory agencies authorizing the activity and containing the signature block with the chairman of the commission of this or zoning enforcement officer can indicate approval of the commission shall be submitted, and prior to the start of construction, erosion control measures shall be installed. I'm also going to say that we should incorporate the suggestion from DEP, which says additional sediment and erosion control measures such as silt fencing and barriers shall be installed between the construction site and the existing stone masonry seawall to capture any windblown debris and materials from entering Pages Cove and Long Island Sound.
Okay, great. And that's in the DEP letter, Caitlin, is that correct?
It is.
Okay, great. Okay, then, does any further questions, comments from anyone? I think we agreed we didn't need a vegetated buffer. If not, then does someone want to make a motion to approve the application with the findings and conditions with the addition of number 3, regarding the additional sedimentation and erosion control as recommended in the letter that Caitlin read? Someone want to make that motion?
Make that motion, Marcy Paluzzi, as presented.
Second that
motion. Second that motion, John Lust.
Great. Okay, so motion made by Marcy and second by John. Any further discussion? All in favor? We'll run through the list. John?
John Lust, Commissioner, in favor.
You are unmuted.
Joe? Chadwick? Joe Chadwick, are you in favor? Okay, yeah, just I need a verbal consent for the record.
Joe Chadwick in the affirmative, sorry.
Thank you. Joe Vayuso?
Joe Vayuso approves.
And Marcy?
Marcy Paluzzi approves.
And Chuck Anders, chair. I also vote in favor of the motion to approve. So motion passed. Congratulations.
Thank you, folks.
You bet.
Thank you for your time.
So then that brings us then to other new business. Item number 3 is a box church at 131 Commercial Parkway. That's a new church building, and we need to schedule a public hearing on that one. Harry, you're recommending October 1st?
Harry Smith, Town Planner, yes. I just note the agenda should be accepted for the record on 9/3/20.
Okay. So rather than 9/17?
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll schedule that one for our public hearing at our October 1st meeting. Item number 4 under new business is Breach Corporation, Mr. Giordano, special exception for general business office. And I understand that they need an additional application, so we can just table that one for this time. Is that correct, Harry?
That's my understanding. I don't know if there's anything else that Caitlin would like to add on that. I think that covers it. Right, Caitlin?
Caitlin here. Nope, that's it. They just need to submit that extra application and some other material.
So then we can just table item number 4 for now, not take any action until they submit the additional one and schedule them all at one time. Item number 5, Michelle Turnus, applicant and owner, 198 Hotchkiss Grove Road, a special exception to reconstructing the existing garage. And again, we have a public hearing scheduled for that at our next meeting next week on September 17th. Item number 6, Doug Baldwin, 133 Johnson's Point Road, a special exception for an accessory apartment. Also have a public hearing scheduled at our next meeting on the 17th. And then items 7, 8, and 9 are 375 Metro. That's the East Main Street, the PDD application and site plan and zoning regulation amendment. This is the Exit 55 redevelopment by Metro Star. And we need to schedule a public hearing for that. And what date do you recommend for that, Harry?
Harry Smith, Town Planner, with a little trepidation, I recommend October 1st. We're getting a little jammed up, but I want to really keep moving.
Okay, well, we'll schedule it for October 1st and see how far we get for those 3. And then item number 10, statewide development, 41 Brandy Road. This is a special exception for grading for one of the lots, and that presupposes that we've approved the subdivision, correct?
Correct.
So why don't we just table this one until we act on the subdivision, and if we approve it, then schedule a public hearing for that.
Makes sense.
Item number 11 is David Diatri, 4-3 Elm Road, a special exception modification for ADA compliant. And you're recommending that we just table this to our next meeting to give the neighbor or what?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. I did speak to Mr. Dattrey this afternoon, and explain sort of the options. And he had filed a request to waive the public hearing. But understanding, I think there's concern with the direct neighbor. He concurs the best course is to move the public hearing date to the 1st of October. That will give him time to notify the abutters, which the current date of 9/17 would not, since he hasn't done it yet. And he would prefer to go on the 1st of October now.
Okay, great. So then we'll just schedule a public hearing for item number 11 for October 1.
Yes.
That's correct, Harry? Or check the understood?
Yes.
Okay. So for item number 11, we'll schedule a public hearing on that for our October 1 meeting. That brings us into other business. We have a number of items to cover. Item number 1 is time extension for subdivision map filing for the re-subdivision modification of 292 Leeds Island Road. And I understand there's a request for a 90-day extension. Any comments on that, Harry or Caitlin?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. There's been some extended back and forth with attorneys involved, and some, not incredibly prompt responses on all sides. So this would allow some extra time. Hopefully, it's pretty close to being wrapped up, and certainly won't need all the 90 days. But arguably, the extension of the executive order covers part of the period, but rather to be safe, I think the thing to do is just grant some time extension.
Great. Okay. Any questions from any questions from any commission member? Not that someone want to make a motion to grant a 90-day extension for the filing of the subdivision map for the 292 Leeds Island Road subdivision.
Joe Vayuso approves the extension.
Okay, so Joe, we'll give the motion to Joe. Joe makes the motion to approve. Joe Vayuso, is there a second?
John Lust, Commissioner, I'll make that second.
Okay, John seconds. Any further discussion? Then all in favor. John Lust, are you in favor?
John Lust in favor.
Joe Chadwick, are you in favor?
Yeah, look in favor.
Joe Vayuso, are you in favor?
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy, are you in favor?
Marcy Paluzzi in favor.
And Chuck Anderson also in favor, so the time extension is granted. Item number 2 is a bond release, surety bond for 99 Cherry Hill Road. Harry, what's this about?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. All the work is complete with this subdivision. I have a memorandum from Daniel Brennan, the zoning enforcement officer, recommending the bond be released in full in the amount of $42,750, noting that it's a surety bond, so we're simply returning the bond. Streetlights, final wearing course of pavement, and epoxy line striping. He also notes there are currently 3 additional cash bonds on file. One for erosion controls, about $7,700 something, and 2 others totaling about $16,000 some odd dollars for the remaining street trees and detention basin. So, recommendation is to release the bond requested for release in the amount of $42,750.
Yes, Chair. Thank you, Harry. Any questions, Commissioner members? Not that someone want to make a motion to release this $42,750 surety bond for 99 Cherry Hill Road, as recommended by staff.
I'll make a motion. Marcy Paluzzi.
You are unmuted.
Motion made by Marcy. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion. John Lust.
Chuck Anderson, John seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? John Lust, are you in favor?
John Lust in favor.
Mr. Chadwick?
Chadwick approves.
Joe Vayuso?
Joe Vayuso approves.
Marcy?
Marcy Paluzzi approves.
And Chuck Anderson, I also approve the bond release, so that motion passes. Item number 3, 824 for the Cosgrove Animal Shelter. Is someone here on that one?
We have architect Seapot, who is here. Hopefully we can unmute him. And Joe, just so you know, I have a drawing you submitted be able to put them on a screen if you'd like me to.
Yes, please.
Everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. So as we know, the animal shelter has evolved over the years. It's actually grown quite a bit. So what we're proposing to do is we are enlarging the animal shelter and renovating the existing facility. Existing facility is approximately 2,600 square feet, and we're adding approximately 3,400 square feet. In the areas here, we're proposing a more inviting visitor animal volunteer-friendly facility. So we're breaking the building down into a number of different components, but basically we'll have the public area with a large community meeting room, a large waiting room when you come in. I don't know if you've been there recently, but there is a very tight when you come into the waiting room. It was never designed for the adoption center that it is now. The meeting room would be good for meetings. They have camp. They also have dog training that they would be used in that area. Then right below that, Harry, we have the staff area, which also has grown considerably since the building was originally built. Staff area for 2 people at the front desk, another 4 to 5 people in the back area, plus the director's office, and in a large staff break room. Then we have the kind of the semi-public area that if you're looking to adopt an animal, you would come and be escorted into the, we have a dog visiting area, a couple of those. We have a cat visiting area. And that's where you come and look at prospective animals for adoption. And then where we have the existing entry to the building would be more of a staff entry that if a dog or an animal came in that was injured, they'd go right directly to the exam room. Also, in this, and this is the staff-only area, we have a maternity cat room, sick cat room, and a cat quarantine room. We'll be renovating the kennel area, and then we'll be adding, also, we're proposing a larger storage area for more mechanicals, dog food, and they get a lot of donations, bedding, crates, etc. that they want to take in, and they do give out a lot of those, so they would we have a larger area for that. Currently, the lot is part of the transfer station lot. It's all one parcel. A little under an acre currently, about 0.9 acre. What we're proposing to do is reconfigure some of that existing lot, about an additional 0.15 acre, to accommodate the addition, some additional parking, and more outdoor animal area. You'll see the splash pad out there, but we're also going to be proposing a walking area. Right now, if you're looking to adopt a dog, you would walk the dog up and down the driveway, which is very tight and a little dangerous. So we would have proposing an area around the back where you'd also be able to walk the animals. New fencing, new retaining wall back there. And then the other thing we're going to be looking at also is a new entry off of the street or the transfer station. Right now, it's a little clumsy how you come into the transfer station and make a hard left right into the animal shelter driveway. So we'll be looking at a redesign for that. So that's a little bit about what we're proposing and what we're going to be doing with the facility.
Chuck understood. Thank you, Mr. Seapot. This is just an 824 referral, correct? I mean, it's not a site plan application.
No, but just tell you like a little background of what we're proposing.
Sure, no, absolutely.
Yeah, Harry Smith, Town Planner. We do have a letter from James Cosgrove for a selectman. The commission, it's simply an 824 referral for proposed renovation expansive project at the Daniel Cosgrove Animal Shelter. As it was just.
Okay, and just to remind everyone, in 824, all we're doing is saying that this proposal is consistent with our general planning goals as reflected in the Plan of Conservation Development. So, Okay, any questions or comments for Mr. Seapot from commission members or staff? Okay, hearing none, then someone want to make, it looks fine to me. It's like a good thing. It's consistent with our sound planning.
You are unmuted.
Provides a service within the town and continues that and makes it more user friendly and friendly. It's good use. So someone want to, people agree? Does someone want to make a motion to make a positive 824 referral with respect to this application?
Joe Vayuso approved 824 approval.
Okay, motion made by Joe Vayuso. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Second by Joe Chadwick. Any further discussion? We'll go through the list. John, how do you know?
John Lust approves.
Joe Chadwick.
Chadwick in the affirmative.
Joe Vayuso.
Joe Vayuso approves.
Marcy
Paluzzi approves.
Chuck Anderson, chair, also approves. So we've given a positive 824 referral, and hopefully you guys can move forward without any problem. That brings us then.
Very good. Thank you.
You bet. Brings us then to item number 4, discussion. I asked Harry to put this on the list. Status of Governor Vermont's executive orders regarding holding remote meetings, future commission meeting format. The quick stuff is, the question is, we want to continue meeting like this, all right? Just my understanding, general background is this, is, COVID emergency. You cannot have, big congregations in meeting halls, and particular congregations are vulnerable to that. Half of the commission may be in a vulnerable population. It's not a good thing to be.
Are you calling us old?
With a bunch of strangers and so forth. So anyway, they allowed us to conduct meetings remotely, which is what we've been doing. It wasn't required, but it was allowed that option. And my understanding is most cities, suburbs have done it. And there's some towns in the corners of the states that don't have much IT capacity, and frankly, they haven't. That's one reason they had this 90-day extension. If you want to just stop, you can. But the idea has been, no, we want to keep going. We don't want to, we don't want COVID to slow us down. So anyway, we've had this. That said, now we've had it for a while. There are a few towns that are doing either hybrid models, or I went to a meeting in West Haven where it was just it was in an Italian American club, big facility. Everyone was spread out, and it was like an old meeting. People wore masks and so forth. So what I wanted to do is bring the issue up because we haven't talked about it. I don't know how people like this format. We just haven't talked about it. If I had my druthers, we would be able to do some sort of hybrid format where commission members that wanted to could meet in the hall and be spread out and we could see each other's faces and whatever. But if people who didn't want to come, we would have a remote capacity. I mean, to me, that would be the best of both worlds. But I wanted to check and see how it's going because it's functioned and it's happening. So it may be better than I originally thought. So, what do you think? We haven't talked about it. Why don't we go down the list? We'll start again. Let's go in the order we've been doing. John, what do you think?
Personally, I prefer the face-to-face meetings. I don't know how we can do that with the COVID concerns, but I certainly I prefer that type of meeting.
Sure. Joe Chadwick.
I don't think we can find a venue that has sufficient air changes to be viable until COVID thing settles down. The computer communication is problematic, obviously, but given the alternatives, I'll take it any day.
Thanks, Joe. Joe Bayou.
Well, I like it the way we're doing it now. There are some advantages to what we're doing now, but I prefer, it'd be like go back to what it used to be, an open room and actually seeing the people and seeing their proposals. Of course, I'm at a disadvantage. I'm only on a phone, so that's my opinion. But I prefer going back the old way, which I know we can't do right now. But whenever it's possible, I would rather go back to being in an open room, live.
Yeah. Fred, are you still here? Because you can talk on this.
Yes. I'm here. I actually prefer, like I think most of the other commissioners, having a face-to-face experience with the applicants and with each other. And for me, I'm only here by phone. I do see your faces. Often they're animated, and it's not the real McCoy. But I would think as soon as it's possible for us to go back to our old format, I would love to see that. I mean, if we have to do what we have to do to make sure that everybody's safe, by all means, let's do it. But if I had my choice, I'd be doing it the other way.
Thanks, Fred. Marcy.
Hi, Marcy here. I love all you guys, and it's great to have it in an open room. Obviously, there's a lot of concern around sports and COVID and what's safe and what's not. And I think the numbers are good, and I generally, am not that fearful, but I feel like this has worked effectively, so I don't feel any need to rush back necessarily. Just given that with kids going back to school, that's a new scenario that can create some spread and some concerns. And with the winter coming, I'd really like to see whether we do get a relapse or not. I have no issue hanging on through Christmas, and then hopefully in the spring it's a non-issue and we can all get back together. But I'd rather err on the side of safety.
Thanks, Mark. Massimo, are you around? Our alternate? Can we unmute Massimo?
Yes.
Any thoughts?
Hi. My experience face to face is always, in the past has been the best experience for me. It's as a newcomer, being in an open room with everybody and keeping our safety precautions up to par. I think, of course it would be much better, to be in an open room. I would personally prefer that. I'm in an open room with people, and I, protecting myself and others by wearing masks, I think works very effectively. Whatever the majority would want here is, this is fine. I just like to get that experience and be able to, see things live. I think I get a better experience with that being a newcomer. But I'm open for either or. So I had some difficulties today on my phone. It would block off, and then I would start hearing again. So I would miss a couple of little things, but mostly it was fine. So again, I would like to be in an open room with everybody face to face.
Great. Thanks, Massimo. Harry?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. I see the attraction of the hybrid possibility. I'm certainly willing to explore that with Kate and, talk to other communities that may have, been doing that or are doing it. I think it'd be a little tricky given our current agenda, but certainly think I would be in no rush to go that route if that's the route folks want to go. It sounds like maybe the consensus is hang out through the holidays and see where we are, which certainly I think makes sense to me personally. One thing I can do is explore with the IT department if we can get some in technology enhancements for, you know, I mean, it's been very difficult to get a hold of tablets because everyone in the world wants tablets and laptops. I will explore what may be available to help Joe Vayuso and Massimo, anyone else, and Fred maybe, who have seemed to, you know, be struggling with the phone and looking at it on a BCTV to get visual maybe, and you know, see if we can do anything to help out that way.
Thanks. Caitlin?
Caitlin here. I'm fine either way, whatever makes everybody else comfortable.
What are other town meetings? Are all other town meetings Zoom meetings?
I think most of them are. I think the Board of Ed was doing, they were meeting. I don't know if they're still meeting, having the public come in remotely. I think that is what I haven't done a survey. I can check with Krista Malicki and see if she knows, second assistant to Jamie for Selectman's office, and see if any communities, you know, any of the committees and boards are doing anything a little different now, having been so many months into it. I'll give you the report back at the next meeting and get more information.
Yeah, I thought that Board of Ed, that was probably it, that they seem to be at a table wearing masks 6 feet apart.
I think they did something hybrid to get community input on how to reopen schools. So they had a meeting or two along those lines. I think they did a hybrid.
How about wetlands and ZBA?
I think wetlands has totally been Zoom. ZBA has been Zoom as well.
Okay. It sounds like we're going to continue, but we'll explore the hybrid option if we see what we can find out.
Yep.
That sounds like we're headed, and hopefully spring we'll get back. I agree with everyone else. I prefer the in-person, but do what you.
Yeah, I mean, technically it'd be a little tricky to juggle all this and an in-person meeting. I mean, not that we can't do it, but I think certainly want to take some lead time and make sure we had it all set up correctly, because we used operating technically here to operate the remote technology, for example, in the firehouse. It's a little tricky there with their connections. So we have to do some, you know, testing to make sure we can make it work, and logistical thinking about how to do it all.
Okie doke. Anything else on that? Anyone?
I will note that there are a couple of folks who didn't catch it. I understand the governor extended the state of emergency or reinstituted it to February 9th and perhaps declared another one. Today, there was or yesterday, I think, was an executive order adopted that continued, if I understand it correctly, all the existing executive orders we've been operating under regarding meetings from September 9th, which was yesterday when they would have lapsed, to November 9th. So that's, we certainly got, it seems like a green light to continue operating as we have been November 9th.
Okay. Great. Okay, last item on the agenda is planner's report. Harry, what's anything?
I think the agenda speaks for itself in terms of what we were.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean,
I'm very happy to have Kate and Dan on board, and as time has gone on, they've been settling in well and very effective contributors to the department and taking on more and more responsibility. Also, we have in our break, I have gone through the draft landscaping regulation changes that were proposed by a group of folks, and have shared my comments and those with I think Marcy and Fred both volunteered to be kind of an informal subcommittee. And I've talked to Marcy a little bit. We canceled the meeting last Thursday. And so I want to set a time to meet with them and go through my comments and just sort of what's being proposed item by item. So I can talk to you guys offline. I don't know if you both have time tomorrow. It's kind of short. Oh. But I'll work out a time. So, and then
Harry, what time would you want to meet?
I could do it around 11. I would
That's
think
fine
about
by me.
it like in a Zoom meeting kind of thing. You can see visually, Fred, or do you have to?
I can see, yes.
So your computer or phone, you can see what's going on?
Yes.
Okay. So that would work if you guys want to start. Does that work?
Send us the meeting
I'll invite tomorrow morning or 11 if that works.
So what are we going to do? Just call it on the Zoom?
Yeah, we could just we could actually use this room, I think.
Okay.
I think this is a standing room. I just have to schedule it. I'll check with Kate and do it in the morning.
Okay. So let's assume that it's on, unless you call us and tell us that it's been postponed or eliminated.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. Thanks, both of you.
All right.
That's really it at the moment.
Okay, great. Anyone else got anything?
Should I move to adjourn?
And that's the next thing. Someone want to move to adjourn?
Moved.
Okay.
Second.
Marcy moves and who seconded?
John did.
John seconded. Okay. John Lust, are you in favor of adjourning?
Yes, I am.
And Joe Chadwick, are you in favor of adjourning?
Chadwick in the affirmative.
Mr. Vayuso, how about you?
Yes, I am.
Marcy.
Marcy Paluzzi.
And Chuck Anders, I also in favor of adjourning. So thank you, everyone. And see you next week. Quick one.
Good night.
Long one next
Good night,
week.
everyone.
That's right.
Good night.
Night.
Good night. Good night.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.